Don't smell so good.
The following is a CNBC original production.
The United States of America, home to 300 million people, each of us assuming that if we obey the law and mind our own business, there's no reason for anyone to pay much attention to us. That's what we might think, but we would be wrong.
Records are being created of activities that used to be wholly private.
There are a lot of companies that you've never heard about, but they've heard something about you.
Detailed personal information is being collected every day and used in ways we could never imagine.
Most Americans are in your database somewhere, right?
Also billions of transactions.
Internet searches are being recorded.
They keep everything. Your political leanings, your religious leanings, your medical concerns, your sexual concerns.
Driving habits are being monitored.
Vehicle speed, engine speed, whether the brakes were on or off.
Employees are surveilled.
He's heading back to the shop right now.
Shoppers are observed, recorded, and analyzed.
That's an alert right there.
And personal phone calls?
I was under the impression that nobody could steal my cell phone records. As it turns out, I was very, very wrong.
We are living through a revolution, a surveillance revolution empowered by technology.
Literally within 5 to 7 minutes, we've identified the individual.
It's technology that can be put to good use to stop terrorists and solve crimes. But if information falls into the wrong hands, or it's just plain wrong, it can ruin lives.
I went without a job for months.
Tough 4 months?
Very, very difficult for me.
From implantable chips...
They make a small incision in your arm.
...to data mining companies.
Well, how secure is that database?
We take an unprecedented look at the powerful business of personal information.
We're not mining through the personal lives of innocent Americans.
The government is now working with big business to take surveillance and information gathering to levels that were once the stuff of science fiction.
Big Brother, if allowed to happen, will happen. And our job as responsible human beings in society is to make sure that that does not occur.
It was a horrific automobile collision.
It was the biggest tragedy in the state of Michigan. The entire family was wiped out.
In May 2005, a drunk driver, speeding and out of control on this road in Farmington Hills, Michigan, slammed his Yukon Denali SUV into a car carrying Judith Weinstein, her 12-year-old son, Alex, and 9-year-old son, Sam. All three were killed.
It's my understanding this matter was going to be a plea, is that correct?
49-year-old Thomas Wellinger, the driver of the Yukon, was charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder. Crucial evidence used against him was obtained from a device in his own car, a device that was tracking his driving without his knowledge. If you've bought a car in the last few years, chances are you have one too. It is known as an event data recorder, or EDR, also referred to as a black box. It captures what happens in an automobile in the seconds before and after its airbag is released.
Ken Frazee on behalf of the people of the state of Michigan.
Oakland County Prosecutor Ken Frazee says the data recovered from the black box has played a crucial role in a number of his cases, including this one.
Your Honor, the data that was testified to in court indicates that the defendant was traveling consistently at approximately 70 miles an hour. Now, this was in excess of the speed limit. The engine throttle speed also shows that the throttle was heavily engaged, and for the 5 seconds prior to impact, the black box demonstrated in this case that there was no attempt at braking. It's very powerful information because of the fact that it is a solid technology.
Santa Barbara, California-based Vetronics sells the technology that allows law enforcement to download data from a car's black box. Andrew Bunch is a product developer.
There's a few different data parameters that are recorded. We have vehicle speed, engine speed, percent throttle, and then brake switch status, which...
This device, it's called a black box, but it's not black.
Right. This is actually an airbag control module. Any vehicle that has an airbag system is going to have an airbag control module installed in it. Whether or not it records data is,
You can stick a chip in anything these days to record this information.
Exactly. So that after deployment of the airbags, it will actually record some of the data that we've seen here.
The conditions for these pleas that were entered today is that you will never drive a motor vehicle for the rest of your life. Is that your understanding?
Yes. Partly because of the undisputed evidence provided by the black box, Wellinger pled no contest during pretrial motions. He will serve a minimum of 19 years in jail.
There are some people who argue that this could be a death sentence for you in view of your age. Are you aware of that?
In the case of Thomas Wellinger, an advance in technology worked to put a menace to society behind bars. That is one of the benefits of the world we live in, where technology of all types is able to capture evidence of our behavior, evidence that can be used to find and punish those guilty of committing crimes. But privacy advocates warn that while devices such as the black box offer advantages, they can also carry risks. A minor technological advance, for example, could enable a black box to monitor your driving all the time, allowing the police to issue speeding tickets without officers actually being present, or insurance companies to judge your driving habits before determining your rates.
With knowledge...
George Washington University law professor Daniel Solove is an expert on privacy law.
I think that a lot of the purposes for gathering the information are quite benign. What's bad is the fact that the person whose information is being collected is so out of the loop in this process, has no rights, because right now it's the case where they'll gather the information, they'll use it for one purpose, it's great, but secretly they could be using it for another purpose.
One example, the Global Positioning System, GPS as it's known, is now used commercially to help people navigate their automobiles. But it's not hard to go from use to abuse. Consider the case of Eric Adero.
I didn't know about it. These guys were tracking me. They knew each and every street that I'd been in Las Vegas, where I'd stayed, stopped, slept.
In December of 2003, Adero booked a rental car to drive round trip from his home in Los Angeles to Las Vegas. When he returned the car in Los Angeles, he received a bill for over $1,400, about $1,200 more than the fee he'd been quoted.
And I asked why. He told me to use the vehicle to go out of the state of California.
Unbeknownst to Odero, the rental car company imposed an additional charge for driving out of state. And somehow, the agent knew he had gone to Las Vegas.
Then I said, how did you know I went to Las Vegas? They said, we know you went to Las Vegas. Then I said, prove it that I went to Las Vegas.
The rental car agent handed Odero this map that showed he had crossed the California state line on December 29th at 12:29 p.m.
This guy finally told me there was a GPS system pre-installed in the vehicle. No one had told me about that.
The GPS chip in Odero's car allowed the rental car company to track his every move. As soon as the car touched Nevada soil, he was charged $1 for every mile driven for the entire trip.
And so there was, my privacy was all gone.
In October of 2004, Odero and 139 others took part in a class action suit against Acceleron Corporation, the owner of 2 Payless rental car franchises in San Francisco. The suit alleged that customers were unaware the company was using GPS technology to track their driving and were surprised by the penalties to drive out of state. The lawsuit was settled. Odero and the others were refunded the additional fees charged for driving outside California. It's not just devices in cars that are tracking people's behavior.
A lot of devices that people are using, everyday devices like printers and computers and cell phones, are including some kind of tracking information.
Like that color laser printer you have at home or the office. Every page printed by most color laser printers is embedded with a code unique to that printer. Yep, your color laser printer could be spying on you. Seth Schoen is a privacy advocate with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. His work has led to the cracking of those codes.
My understanding is that this was motivated by a request from the United States Secret Service, which investigates counterfeit, and that they asked the manufacturers of color laser printers to do this, to add this tracking capability. And by and large, the manufacturers complied. Most of them didn't tell their customers that they were doing so.
The code, a series of yellow dots distributed across the back of the printed page, is not visible to the naked eye.
When you shine a blue light and look under the microscope, I think it's quite distinct.
It is.
So far, we've been able to crack the code that's used by Xerox and a few other manufacturers like Dell. So we can tell you what those mean. There are others like HP and Canon that are still a mystery to us.
In the case of Dell and Xerox, what is it then that these dots are communicating?
Well, they're communicating the serial number of the printer that made the print, and they're also communicating, in the case of Xerox printers, which have this information, the date and time that the print was made.
From there, it's not hard to find out who printed the document. And it's not just your printer. That digital camera you're so fond of?
This is a photograph of me that was taken as a staff photo. If we look at it with the right software, all of a sudden we see a lot more information. So here's the interesting thing. Right there is the unique serial number of my friend's camera. If he's registered for a warranty, then they know who he is.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's easy to find because he publishes his photos on a photo sharing website under his own name. And so you could immediately find out that that's his camera.
Burn any CDs lately?
Another one that the public is not really aware of. When you burn a CD in a CD burner, the CD burner's serial number is actually left on the CD. So if you make a mix CD for someone, or you burn any kind of information onto a CD and give it out to someone, it's potentially traceable back to your computer.
All of this may seem innocuous, but in time, it may not be.
I think people are perfectly happy to adopt a communications device that is in some way traceable or trackable, because they think, well, I don't have anything to hide, and I don't use it in a way that someone can track. And then lo and behold, technology advances. They sign up for all kinds of services, and they're using that technology in a way in which things are exposed and things are trackable that they hadn't anticipated.
When Big Brother Big Business continues.
I can see here, as of 3:40 p.m., he's in front of 893 Lafayette.
Working, shopping, dining.
Practically everything you do in public is being recorded somewhere or in some fashion.
This CNBC program is sponsored in part by John Hancock. The future is yours.
I've always wanted a farm, like my grandparents used to have, with a stable, you know, for the horses. A place where everyone can get together. Kids, grandkids, all my cousins, the whole family. And then pass it on to all the generations that come after me.
You once made a promise to yourself about your future. At John Hancock, we have the products you need to help build, protect, and sustain the future you've always wanted. John Hancock, the future is yours.
They are the kings and queens, the potentates of the road. We recognize them by their restless wing-tipped feet. We support them with new, thicker mattresses and lay the freshest fine white linens at their feet, an offering of respect. Our beds, ourselves, Courtyards changed it all for them. Rest well, my liege. Rest well.
From Mayan times, through today, and into the 26th century, mankind's search for eternal life has found an answer.
The tree of life.
Whoever drinks of its sap will live forever.
Daring and moving, says Premiere Magazine. A must-see. Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz in a Darren Aronofsky film, The Fountain. Rated PG-13. Starts November 22nd.
The guerrilla trades phenomenon is spreading, changing the way investors pick stocks and manage their portfolios. All over the world, people who used to spend hours looking for the next top performer are letting guerrilla trades filter the market down to an elite handful of stocks that meet their market-tested formula for explosive growth. Unleash your inner gorilla. Start your free 30-day trial today. Guerrilla Trades. Silly name, serious stock picks.
I'm Iris Stralk, and this is my story. I'm a homemaker. I've got 2 sets of twins. Our day can be, quite hectic. I hate when I get a cold. When the kids get a cold, it's fine. Mommy's there to take care of them. When I get a cold, no one takes care of me. My head is pounding and my sinuses flare up. Mommy needs a break. When I get a cold, I take a leave cold and sinus. It lasts all day, and for me, that's really important. When I'm well, it's hard. But when I'm sick, forget it. You definitely want something that works well, and a leave cold and sinus works for me.
Mad Money with Jim Cramer returns tomorrow to CNBC. Tomorrow, Michael J. Fox speaks out.
It's kind of a thoughtless thing to do.
And there's only one place to see it. The Big Idea, 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern, CNBC tomorrow.
I'm Richard Morrison. CAP water is extremely important to our state.
Richard Morrison is a water lawyer running for the CAWCD board. Arizona native Richard Morrison has devoted his professional life to advising people about water. Richard also taught water resources management at ASU and was a director of the Roosevelt Water Conservation District. Richard Morrison knows water.
Experience counts. Vote for experience on November 7th.
The truth matters, but some people just don't want you to know it. So weeknights, CNN's Anderson Cooper keeps them honest.
Why is it taking so long for FEMA-approved trailers to get there?
AC 360, the people, the stories, the search for the facts and the truth.
Go out on patrol because you want to see for yourself what kind of progress is being made here in Iraq.
Every night, Anderson Cooper is keeping them honest. AC 360, CNN weeknights.
Juan is out on the road right now, so I can see here, as of 3:40 p.m., he's in front of 893 Lafayette.
Here's the radio.
Howard Boyle, the president of this rather low-tech looking fire sprinkler installation company in Queens, New York, knows exactly where his employees are during the workday.
Okay.
Their cell phones, like many wireless devices, contain a GPS chip, which allows Boyle to use a software program called U-Locate that does just what its name implies.
He's doing 11 miles an hour. I could go and see where he is in transit. He's heading down that road, back to the shop. This is exactly where he is right now.
Right. Where has he been?
He was at a job site that I told him to go to, which was 866 Eastern Parkway. He was on that job site from 2:44 p.m. to 3:30. Okay, you're going to check the fire pump, right?
Boyle says he's never told his employees they're being tracked, but he suspects they know, since Boyle has an uncanny ability to know exactly where they are or where they've been. Boyle's software can tell him the minute-by-minute whereabouts of any employee for months back. Did you think about telling the guys?
If I thought it was a privacy issue, I might have. It's not a privacy issue. They're on the clock. They're being paid to be in places they're supposed to be. They have a route. This was just a simpler way of being able to know that they are basically doing what they're supposed to do and have the confidence that we're not cheating our customers.
Many other businesses that employ mobile workforces, be they Roto-Rooter or TV stations like WABC in New York, use technology to track their employees. Jim Joyce is the vice president of the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians. He says when WABC installed GPS devices in news trucks, union members were rattled.
We were concerned about privacy issues and how this information might be used to monitor the employees in a Big Brother situation, that they would use the device to monitor and criticize routes that our ENG drivers took to get to stories, how long it took for them to get between assignments, the frequency and duration of personal breaks.
It isn't just at work. If your personal cell phone is on, even if it doesn't have a GPS chip, you can be tracked. Kevin Bankston is an attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a nonprofit that defends civil liberties from the encroachment of technology.
Many people don't realize that whenever your cell phone is on, the cell phone company is receiving information about your location, in many cases quite detailed information. Not only can they track you in real time using this information, they are also storing all of that information about where you have been when your cell phone is turned on, information that the government or even private litigants could get at.
You can, of course, turn your cell phone off, or even choose not to have one. But it is getting harder and harder to venture out in public without being watched.
Practically everything you do in public is being recorded somewhere or in some fashion. And the courts have long held that when you're in public, you don't have any expectation of privacy.
This is our back dining room, and we have 2 cameras at opposite corners. And I can pretty much see that most of the guests there look content.
Stephen Lafredo is the owner of Jovia, a high-end restaurant on Manhattan's Upper East Side. The 11 cameras placed strategically throughout Jovia let him constantly monitor his staff and customers, even when he's not there.
I have the same software loaded on my personal notebook computer, so I can pretty much watch what's going on here from anywhere. If I'm on vacation, if I'm away on business, I can really see what's happening in the restaurant.
Now, when you're looking at the screen, where are your eyes drawn typically?
I could see if a guest had to flag down a waiter or if they looked anxietous. I can also look in the lounge area, and I can tell how busy our maitre d's desk is getting by how people are coming into the restaurant.
The employees are aware they are being surveilled.
Somebody's got to prep the table beforehand. The delivery of this dish on 13 was like a disaster.
I'll never go to an employee and say, I saw you do this on camera, it wasn't the right thing to do. What we'll do is we'll talk in a general term with our staff and discuss with them ways that they can better improve the Jovia experience.
Stephen, what about customers? Do they know they're on camera?
It's become more common that there are cameras in restaurants. I think when they see the little black ball on the ceiling, they expect that there are cameras.
In the modern restaurant business, it isn't just cameras that are keeping track of customers.
Anybody who calls to make a reservation will start off with their first and last name and their phone number. If I double-click on that, I can see information, how many times they've reserved, if they've canceled. I can see when they've joined us in the past or any other special comments that I want to put into the system.
So you're going to come back after this?
If I make a note that it's your birthday, or if they're a difficult guest, perhaps,
really,
and they had
even put that note in there.
We might put a code like that in. You know, we could certainly put in codes that say that the person might be very selective about the type of table they get, or whether or not they want to sit in the front or the back room.
So the menu offers a lot of different variations.
While restaurants have only recently taken to surveillance, retailers have a long history of it. Cameras were originally put in stores to help detect and deter theft. Now, those cameras are used for much more.
Here we see a customer that's entered an aisle. He sort of moves from display to display, and he's clearly looking for something, but he's not taking anything off the shelf.
Marianne McDonough is the Vice President of Global Marketing for Verint Systems. The software company has made once dumb cameras smart. Its technology is used by giant retailers such as Home Depot and Target to analyze customer movement as it's occurring in order to improve sales.
That's an alert right there. What that red circle means is that this guy has now dwelled in this particular aisle beyond the period of time that this retailer is comfortable with. And that alert says to somebody in customer service, go send somebody now to say to this guy, can I help you find something?
And so when I walk into a store that has your system in and has cameras, as every store does now.
Absolutely.
They count me, then they watch me if I'm sort of loitering in an aisle, and then they also know if I buy anything, I guess.
That's correct.
It's a surveillance tool that McDonough says CEOs are learning to love.
The CEO actually watches video. He's got the system in his office, and he looks into all the different stores and what's going on. It's one thing to get a report delivered to your desk that says, you know, here are the peak times. It's another thing to actually watch that peak time activity happening.
Verint's system is only in its infancy. In time, there's no telling what a retailer will know about you once you enter a store.
I would say the sky's the limit in terms of the amount of things that we can do, and the more we understand about behavior, the better the solutions get, and the more intelligence they'll provide to retailers over time.
The retailers, do they draw a line in terms of how much they want to know about their customers' behavior? Are they concerned at all in terms of privacy or something like that?
Our job as a vendor is to provide solutions for them to really do the things that they need to do, and it's up to our individual customers to sort of walk that line between, transparency and privacy.
As is often the case in the emerging surveillance society, law enforcement is a key beneficiary. Cameras using Verint technology at this Home Depot in Jacksonville, Florida, played a crucial role in the conviction of a suspected murderer. In November of 2003, Robert Snyder strangled and stabbed his girlfriend, Pamela Noble, to death. Noble was found buried in the woods near Snyder's trailer. A shovel, like this one, was found at the murder scene. A decal on it indicated it was bought at Home Depot. Security cameras at the store showed Snyder buying the shovel.
They went back and matched up the times that it was purchased with our register cameras, and we were able to actually view that and see the shovel being purchased. And from there, the police were able to identify the suspect.
That videotape was used as evidence at trial. In April 2005, Robert Snyder was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, where there are plenty of security cameras.
Ahead on Big Brother, Big Business. Your most personal information in the hands of companies you've probably never heard of.
I had no idea who they were, why they existed, that they would know anything about me.
Do you, Morgan Ambrose Robert, take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife?
Of course, that very much depends on what you mean by the question, do you? Forward-looking statements involve risk and uncertainties. We're opening up a can of worms here. No single answer readily presents itself. I mean, have we really explored every avenue? Have the parties made certain representations, warranties, and agreements in connection with the merger? Do the parties agree to be subject to the satisfaction of the regulatory approvals as required to consummate the transaction? Who amongst us will ever know?
I do.
I pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Less talk. Make it happen. The Royal Bank of Scotland Group.
They told me to get a miniature poodle. Or a nice little chihuahua. But I've always set my heart on a Great Dane. And since my heart valve surgery is in the hands of America's #1 heart center, I figure I'll do all right. He's perfect for rehabilitation exercises.
Find the confidence to face any condition at Cleveland Clinic.
FedEx really helped us with our overnight shipping, even heavy stuff. Now we've added FedEx Ground for everyday shipping.
FedEx is saving us a ton of time. So why aren't we getting more done?
Maybe we should get rid of the half pipe.
No, the half pipe stays.
Gotta keep the half pipe.
FedEx Ground. Fast, reliable, and for less than you think.
Only Schwab active traders get access to all of our powerful tools and trading resources, like online seminars, plus interactive charts to keep you on top of market trends, along with conditional alerts and triggers to help you cut losses and lock in profits, all for as low as $9.95 a trade. Find out why more and more active traders talk to Chuck. Take a test drive at schwab.com/trader. Are you a player? You're not alone. CNBC exposes the exploding world of video games. When
what started as child's play
a big fistful of quarters is gushed out of the machine.
has become a $30 billion business. Another revealing CNBC report. Game On premieres Wednesday, November 15th.
I'm Richard Morrison. CAP water is extremely important to our state.
Richard Morrison is a water lawyer running for the CAWCD board. Arizona native Richard Morrison has devoted his professional life to advising people about water. Richard also taught water resources management at ASU and was a director of the Roosevelt Water Conservation District. Richard Morrison knows water.
Experience counts. Vote for experience on November 7th.
Savor every detail. Feel every sound. Immerse yourself in stunning original programming. Live every moment in high definition. Discovery HD Theater, your window on the world.
Discovery HD Theater is one of over 20 crystal clear high-definition channels now available on Quest Choice TV.
I had no idea who they were, why they existed, that they would know anything about me.
Dr. Amanda Reeve, a Fresno, California OBGYN, had never heard of ChoicePoint. But ChoicePoint had heard of her. It's ChoicePoint's business to know about you. The company maintains a database that has information on virtually every U.S. citizen. Its trove of personal data, an estimated 17 billion records, includes phone numbers, addresses, credit reports, property records, bank accounts, insurance policies, and Social Security numbers. It sells this information to major corporations, nonprofit organizations, and the government. ChoicePoint's detailed information is used by its clients to conduct employee background checks, direct marketing, and criminal investigations. It's also valuable to thieves intent on stealing our identity. Dr. Reeve didn't know any of that on the day she first heard the name on the radio.
Economic data out today showed double the...
I heard a short piece of the news, something about this place called ChoicePoint. They had some sort of a breach of information. People's identities had been stolen.
In 2005, the Alpharetta, Georgia company discovered it had given accounts and therefore access to its database to identity thieves posing as legitimate businesses. Reeve found out she was at risk when she received this letter.
The letter talked about how my information may have been given out accidentally, and some people might have taken that information and they could apply for credit. Maybe I should call this number.
Reeve is one of about 145,000 people across the U.S. whose ChoicePoint data was stolen in February 2005. Every week, a major breach or loss of data occurs in the U.S. And it's not just ChoicePoint. Bank of America, Paymax, DSW, LexisNexis, MCI, Ralph Lauren, Time Warner, the Department of Justice, Citigroup, Boeing, Ford Motor, the Marines, universities, railroads, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. Just a few of the hundreds of entities that have reported a significant loss of data from hackers, lost laptops, lost backup tapes, or theft. And ironically, during the making of this documentary, General Electric, the parent company of CNBC, informed its correspondent, me, as well as its producer, that a GE laptop with our personal information, including our names and Social Security numbers, was stolen from a hotel room. For Reeve, the breach at ChoicePoint led her to discover 2 credit cards had been issued in her name. The thieves had charged about $7,000. Reeve didn't have to pay, but she is unsettled by the incident all the same.
The aftermath continues. I cannot apply for credit. I don't give information on the phone. It's nerve-wracking because that information is out there, and I don't have any control over which way it goes, how it gets used.
ChoicePoint officials declined to participate in our report. But its CEO, Derek Smith, did appear on CNBC shortly after the data breach occurred.
We sincerely apologize. I mean, the fact that that they've been
harmed and inconvenienced in any regard is something we take very seriously.
ChoicePoint is one of many corporations whose product is personal information. Increasingly, that information is being used not just by private industry, but by government as well, and for good reason. The Federal Privacy Act of 1974 limits the government's ability to compile dossiers on individual Americans, but there are fewer limits on private industry. And so data mining companies like ChoicePoint have become important tools for law enforcement.
We use a whole host of the, LexisNexis, those kinds of ChoicePoint, the companies that provide these services. The government subscribes to them, so we have access to them.
How important is the use of these databases?
Oh, it saves you days, weeks, months in doing your job. The ability to understand who owns property and the lineage on things. When I first started as an agent in the late 1980s, if I wanted to find out who owned a piece of property, it would require getting in your car, driving down to the public records, going in and doing research, and then finding big pages out of books and photocopying those pages and saying, aha, I've got this information. Now, much of that information, virtually all of it, is available through databases.
My ChoicePoint report has the social security numbers of all my family members in it, which is useful if I ever want to steal their identity.
Chris Hufnagel is an attorney and consumer advocate.
The biggest problem that we face comes from what's known as a commercial data broker. Companies like Axiom and Experian and ChoicePoint that amass personal information on you from many different sources, including marketing sources and public records. Just as an example, my ChoicePoint report is over 20 pages long, and I'm only in my 30s. So you can imagine that these companies can amass an incredible amount of information about you, including everywhere you've ever lived, the people with whom you've lived, your spouses, your employment information, what cars you drive, what accidents you've been in, pretty much everything about you that triggers a record. And they can use that information for many different purposes, including ones that might end up in you being denied an opportunity.
Julia Hernandez says that's exactly what happened to her.
I did have a really hard time. I didn't have any way to pay for everyday things like gas, utilities.
A single mother who lives in this Illinois suburb, Hernandez had been offered a job as an executive assistant.
I was made an offer, gave my 2 weeks notice with the current employer that I had, and got a phone call from my new employer. They stated they were no longer going to move forward with the hiring process because of some information that came up on my background check.
So you must have been stunned.
Oh, definitely.
Hernandez found out that a company called Verifications, Inc. had done a background check on her and told her new employer that she had a criminal record for theft and resisting arrest.
You've never done either one of those things.
Right.
So Hernandez made a trip to the circuit court's office with the file number for the criminal record listed on the background check.
I went on the computers, looked up the information by the case. Once I got that information, I went to the clerk, asked her to give me the file. She gave me the file, looked through it, and to my surprise, it was by another person's name.
Jacqueline Rivera.
That is correct.
How long did you go without a job?
I went without a job 4 months.
Tough 4 months?
Very tough, very tough. I did go through a depression stage. I did have to go for state assistance to be able to feed my son and myself, which was very, very difficult for me because I've always supported us throughout our lives.
We went to Verifications, Inc. in Minneapolis to find out how all this happened.
When I do my portion on privacy versus the need to know, we will cover it from two different directions, really.
Mary Poquette is the company's chief compliance officer.
When we checked those records, we found 2 convictions. And when we looked at those records, we had a match based upon her name, her full date of birth, her driver's license number, her social security number, and her home address. So certainly there was absolutely no reason to think that this record, that these two records actually did not belong to her.
I do have one question, though, because I know as well that you did find that there was another name, Jacqueline Rivera, with a different date of birth.
Right.
Same social security number. But why wouldn't that raise a red flag when you have two different names and two different dates of birth associated with the same conviction?
Certainly it raised a red flag from the standpoint of there is another name associated with this record, but quite frankly, it's not unusual.
Is it really? It's not unusual?
If I were arrested, I could say my name was Jane Smith. And at that time, there's really no way for the arresting agency to know what my name is. Eventually they will get to do a fingerprint comparison and so on. But as that arrest was made, the arrest was made under the name that I provided.
Do you then, though, send somebody down or do a further search to make sure that you've got the right person?
If an employer is considering an adverse employment decision because of something in the background report, then they are obligated under federal law to notify the person that they are considering taking this action, in this case to Julia, and there are a certain number of days that she would have to contact us if she wanted to dispute anything in the report.
She didn't get back to you?
According to our records, she did not contact us.
Hernandez admits she did not contact verifications. She believed the only way to correct the record was to deal directly with the courthouse.
If she had contacted us, we would have notified her prospective employer that she was disputing something in the background report, and essentially the background is placed on hold while we reinvestigate. There is a photograph that's part of this file. It would have been pretty easy, I would think, to have compared the photograph that was part of the record and Julia.
We obtained that photo, which confirms the woman arrested and convicted was not Julia Hernandez. And how did this mistake occur? Apparently, it was a clerical error. In 2001, Julia Hernandez received a ticket for speeding and driving without a license. The Aurora, Illinois Police Department says Jacqueline Rivera's case number was mistakenly put on the file for Hernandez's speeding ticket. The wrong case number became part of Hernandez's background in the statewide database, a case of mistaken identity with a heavy cost.
Next on Big Brother Big Business, inside the greatest single source of personal data in the world.
How do you address those who start to say, wait a second, privacy? Come on, you've got all my information. That doesn't seem private.
This CNBC program is sponsored in part by British Telecom.
BT, enabling growth and success in the digital networked economy.
We at BT understand that every business in every industry operating in today's digital network economy requires accurate, timely and secure data to be competitive and successful. The combination of BT's global network reach, our trading system solution and the shared market infrastructure of BT Radiance combines to make BT the only company providing end-to-end trading communications for the world's financial markets, including the top 10 global stock exchanges and the top 50 global broker-dealers. Whatever industry you're in, if you're looking to better secure your network, create a more agile workforce, or effectively outsource, BT stands ready to help you take advantage of convergence and drive IT innovation to help you improve your bottom line.
BT, enabling growth and success in the digital networked economy.
There were two options. Change the road or change the SUV. Introducing the Acura MDX with super handling all-wheel drive. technology takes it to a whole new place. Acura. Advance.
Folks, I've been informed we'll be in a holding pattern for the next hour.
It's time to play Take on Orbits. Today's players need to alert each of their clients they'll be late for a meeting from midair.
Oh.
Ready? Go. Done. Orbitz notifies anyone you're running late automatically. Introducing Orbitz TLC. You get treated like a VIP only when you book on Orbitz and go.
Every day, Lexmark printers go to work for some of the world's most important companies. In fact, 75% of the top banks, retailers, and pharmacies use Lexmark. And now, that same performance can work for your home, too. Introducing Lexmark's new all-in-one. With professional features and a protection guarantee that includes next business day replacement, Lexmark is ready to go to work for you.
On December 4th, the new CNBC.com opens for business. So trade up. The all-new CNBC.com, sponsored by Fidelity.
You're watching CNBC, first in business worldwide.
Homeowner. Like any good parent, I want the best for my baby. I want the best food, the best care, and the best future. That's why, to help prepare for his future, I turned to Gerber, the baby people we've known and trusted since we were babies. With the Gerber Life Grow Up Plan, you can give your baby a $10,000 whole life insurance plan for just pennies a day. And when your child turns 21, that coverage will automatically double to $20,000, and the cost stays the same. By age 28, your child will have the right to purchase up to $100,000 worth of insurance, regardless of their health or occupation. If you have a child or grandchild, call Gerber Life today for your free information kit. Any healthy child 12 and under is eligible. Call now and your first month's premium could be as low as $1. Give your baby a head start on their future today with the Gerber Life Grow Up Plan.
Call 1-800-274-1562. The information package is free. 1-800-274-1562.
In this Little Rock, Arkansas company's computers resides the greatest single source of personal marketing data in the world.
You think they're scared?
They may be. The man who built Axiom is far from the cloak and dagger type one might expect to find running such an enterprise. He is Charles Morgan, race car driver, airplane pilot.
I've activated approach going to 120 on the heading.
And Axiom's company leader, as he is formally titled.
These guys here are monitoring the worldwide network.
Right.
You know, we have got connections to all of our clients.
Axiom collects and manages more than 3 billion records a day.
You say you have 17 billion data elements, almost all the households in the U.S., 70 million properties in the U.S., the most comprehensive repository of accurate telephone numbers in the U.S., both listed and unlisted.
Right. We scan or collect data from the telephone directories. We go to the internet. We also go to property records.
But in addition to gathering, sorting, and cataloging information from public records about virtually every American, Axiom has another business. Its acres of computers store private information about us, information that is gathered by the nation's banks, insurers, credit card issuers, retailers, car makers, and telecom companies. Almost every time you make a purchase, whether buying a book, going to the supermarket, or booking a trip, there's a record of your transaction, a record that's kept by the company you did business with. Using a combination of this personal information, along with its vast storehouse of public data, Axiom's computers are able to paint a remarkably detailed portrait of many Americans. Where we live, how many kids we have, where we go on vacation, where we shop, and what we like to buy. Axiom uses that information to help businesses analyze their customers and identify those individuals who would be most receptive to a particular product.
Sears is a client of Axiom, Federated, two of the larger retailers in the country. When you're talking about them being able to access information, give me some sense here as to how that works.
Both of those companies, have systems that collect information about their customers. Their goal and our goal with our infrastructure that we provide to them is to help them use that information to better serve their customers. You know, we all want stuff that's relevant to us.
Are they usually using only the data that they actually have that has been organized and analyzed in a fashion by Axiom that makes it more effective for them? Or are you also giving them other data?
Well, we help supply them with, other information to help them understand, their customers better.
Such as, what does that mean?
We have a product called Personics that actually groups, if you will, the whole United States population into 70 different clusters.
Clusters that are based on specific consumer behavior and demographic characteristics. If your income has gone up, or you've gotten married, or had a baby, Axiom knows. And therefore, so do businesses that can target their products to your particular life stage. While the wealth of information gathered by data mining companies is an important tool for businesses to drive sales, privacy advocates see risks.
Is it an invasion of somebody's privacy?
It's problematic for a number of reasons. People don't know who has what data about them, how this information is going to be used, the extent of the possible uses down the horizon. Will the government be able to get a hold of this information? Will the information be used for background checks, for employment? Do people have any say in saying, no, I don't want it used in this way?
Well, do they?
Currently, they don't have a lot of say because a lot of people don't know even who's gathering the data and even that they have it, let alone have the ability to exercise their right to say, hey, wait a second, I really don't like this.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today and talk a little bit about the status of federal legislation as it relates to security breaches.
Axiom is well aware of the thorny privacy issues involved with a company that deals with people's personal information. That's why it has Jennifer Barrett, one of the first privacy officers in corporate America. It's a position Barrett's held since 1991.
The world was very different. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the kinds of information that we have today. But as the 90s moved into the new century, information became more critical to our clients and more information became available.
How do you address those who start to say, wait a second, privacy? Come on, you've got all my information. That doesn't seem private.
They need to look at it from a standpoint of why do we have that information and what it's used for. Axiom brings information to companies that want to market to consumers and helps them understand what might be relevant to a particular household.
She really has it down. She knows how to explain what our company does and how to convince the public that it's not a big deal. Now, I think that she's wrong. I think that what her company does is very invasive. They have files on basically every American. They know information about how much money you make, about whether or not you have children, what your interests are.
After 9/11, it was the government that was interested in Axiom's information. The FBI issued a subpoena, and Vice President Cheney got personally involved.
Cheney really asked for a briefing just to understand himself what the private sector could do to help with the problem. The Attorney General was involved and several other people in the Department of Justice.
Despite Morgan's contact with the Vice President and the FBI, Axiom's business with the federal government remains tiny. Not so its ever-growing mound of data.
Yeah, it just goes on and on and on. You mentioned information is just exploding. I mean, this is not going to stop. It's only going to continue,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. 20 years ago, it was too expensive to even store this data. Now, instead of storing 6 months of history, we store 6 years of history.
In 2003, some of that data was hacked from one of Axiom's servers. The company now says it has one of the most secure networks in the world. But these days, the proliferation of information is so extensive that computer hackers don't need to break into highly secure databases in order to find valuable information. In fact, sometimes the most private of things can be found in the most public of places, on Google. Johnny Long is what's known as a good guy computer hacker. He works as a researcher at the Computer Sciences Corporation from these offices near Baltimore, Maryland. It's his job to advise companies on the security of their networks, and as part of that job, he tries to break into those networks. But before he employs some of his more complex hacking techniques, Long uses Google, because he's found that a simple search of the internet using Google can turn up enough personal information to make a bad guy giddy.
You can see here that we have credit card information, expiration dates, we have folks' names, we have their addresses, their phone numbers, PayPal IDs, eBay IDs, and passwords.
The information Long can find using Google is in almost every case not intended to be shared with the entire world. It normally results from people or organizations unwittingly putting sensitive information on the internet. Google's search technology doesn't differentiate between what is private and what's not, so if it's on the internet, Google is going to find it, keep it, and make it available to everybody else. The parade of personal information seems endless.
This was a report that was put out by a city. They were having trouble with their residents paying their water bills. So what they did is they created this document that included the person's full name, their address, how much they owed, and their social security number. A lot of search engines have the ability to say, just give me Excel spreadsheets. And you can see we're able to find things like expense reports. This was a search that we did for phone bills. Okay, so you have this person's name, you have their phone number, and you can see all of the charges. This is one that was pretty scary than actual Equifax credit report. So this lists somebody's entire credit history. This sort of searching is definitely something that's happening. I think it's part of the bigger identity theft picture. This is definitely something that the bad guys would do.
Coming up on Big Brother, Big Business.
We the jury, find the defendant.
How your internet searches can be used against you in court. And inside AOL's investigation unit.
The charges in this case were child pornography as a result of an AOL member sending child porn through our network.
Are you a player? You're not alone. CNBC exposes the exploding world of video games. What started as child's play,
a big fistful of quarters is gushed out of the machine,
has become a $30 billion business. Another revealing CNBC report. Game On premieres Wednesday, November 15th.
For each of us, there's a moment of discovery. We see that all of life is elemental. And as we marvel at element bonding with element, we soon realize that when you add the human element to the equation, the chemistry changes. We find a way of seeing that gives us a way of touching. Issues, ambitions, lives. The human element. Nothing is more fundamental. Nothing more elemental.
The Energy Select Sector Spider. Visit us on the web at sectorspdrs.com or call 1-800-THE-AMEX now.
See me driving down the street. I'm bored with looking good. 'Cause I'm a punk rocker, yes I am.
2,000 years ago, they probably never imagined people would be going past this at 50 kilometers per hour. Just like we probably can't predict what we'll be driving in the future. That's why we're developing thermoplastic car body parts that are lightweight and highly impact resistant. Not to mention recyclable, so we can keep things moving forward. I'm Marina Anglani, and I work for ExxonMobil.
In
Introducing the new HP Blade System C-Class with Thermalogic, Virtual Connect, and Insight Control, powered by dual-core Intel Xeon processors. Now you can contain the chaos and set IT free to drive your business.
Why would you want an ED tablet that works up to 36 hours? Because life is full of interruptions. That's all right. You have up to 36 hours with Cialis. Cialis is the only erectile dysfunction tablet clinically proven to work up to 36 hours. 36 hours to relax and enjoy yourselves, knowing you can still be ready when the moment is eventually right. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions and all medications, and ask if you're healthy enough for sexual activity. Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Don't drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help if you experience priapism, an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease in vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away. Go ahead, take your time. 36-hour Cialis. When the moment is right, will you be ready?
August 2002. A peaceful night on a beach near Jacksonville, Florida is shattered by a horrendous crime.
I think somebody's been shot.
Do you see a gunshot wound, sir? Do you see him bleeding?
Either a gunshot or a stab.
The injured man was Justin Barber.
I was grabbing him. I was trying to do whatever he could. Trying to grab that gun.
He told police that he and his wife were walking on the deserted beach when an unknown gunman shot them both. Justin Barber was wounded. April Barber was dead. Police suspected Barber may have had a role in the death of his wife. And as it turned out, Barber left behind evidence he never dreamed even existed. Like millions of Americans, Barber searched the internet for information. And like most Americans, he used the search engine Google to do it. Barber kept the results of those searches on the hard drive of his laptop computer. But even if he had deleted them, they would have been kept somewhere else. At Google. Google keeps a record of every search that has ever been conducted by anyone who has used it. And in most cases, those searches can be tracked back to the specific individuals who conducted them.
Right now, the default rule for Google and pretty much all of its competitors is that they keep everything. They have a log of every search made through Google since it started in the dorm rooms at Stanford. What you Google for defines you. A log of your searches on Google or any other search engine is practically the closest thing to a printout of the contents of your brain that we've ever seen. It indicates your political leanings, your religious leanings, your medical concerns, your sexual concerns, a vast array of sensitive data that in the past no one ever had.
I started yelling for April. And running up and down the beach. You didn't see her?
So while Justin Barber was telling police his story about how his wife died, the record of his Google searches made a few months before the shootings was telling a very different story. Investigators turned up queries such as trauma cases, gunshot right chest, and life insurance homicide. Barber was charged with April's murder.
There was a Google search in which the keywords trauma, cases, gunshot, right, and chest were the searches that were used.
His Google queries were part of the evidence used during his trial.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Justice Murders Barber, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder as charged in the indictment.
In July of 2006, Justin Barber was convicted of murder and sentenced to life without parole. The case of Justin Barber is just one example of the ways Americans are being watched more closely than ever before. It is big business that collects most of the data about us, but increasingly it's the government that's using it. And nowhere is the convergence between private industry and public law enforcement more in evidence than on the internet.
Welcome.
AOL is one of the largest communities on the web.
You've got mail.
As in every community, AOL has its share of bad apples. But when AOL members commit a crime, their behavior online can often be used as evidence against them.
My name is John Ryan, and I serve as Chief Counsel.
John Ryan, a former New York City prosecutor, is AOL's Chief Counsel for Compliance and Investigation.
We are the principal interface on behalf of AOL with the law enforcement community.
You've got pictures.
When AOL finds any of its members exploiting children or engaging in any sort of criminal activity, the company will work with law enforcement to prosecute them.
We responded to 2 after-hours emergencies this week.
We were granted exclusive access to a meeting of AOL's Compliance and Investigations Unit.
All right, Ann, what's going on in the world of search warrants?
We're getting about 30 a week, so I think that might pick up.
What types of crimes are they focusing on?
Mostly sexual crimes.
Ryan's staff deals solely with law enforcement issues.
It was something that AOL learned in terms of child exploitation.
There are court orders, warrants, and eavesdropping requests that are served on the company every day, not to mention the roughly 300 subpoenas it receives every week. AOL complies with many of those requests.
The charges in this case were child pornography as a result of an AOL member sending child porn through our network, and that's how the law enforcement folks became aware of this individual.
Don Coakley, the Director of Law Enforcement Affairs, spends much of his time in court testifying against AOL subscribers.
The defendant claimed he had no knowledge of the child pornography on his computer, and he actually took the stand to admit this. But I came on board as a rebuttal witness simply to say, we have evidence on our network that you used your AOL account to send the child porn.
AOL does not keep a record of the specific sites its members visit on the web or their instant messages, but it does keep your emails.
Why do you store emails?
It's for the convenience of the member, and it's very limited retention periods. Currently, for email, we only store it on our servers for approximately 28 days.
Unread emails?
That's correct.
Now, what if I receive an email and I delete it?
Only 2 days.
While emails are of interest to law enforcement, most investigations begin by trying to establish identity. AOL, like all internet service providers, can identify users and gather evidence by what's known as an IP address, a unique number assigned to every computer that connects to the internet. It can be used to determine who that computer belongs to and what a person using that computer did while online.
The IP address, I would say, is the prime ingredient to any law enforcement investigation because that provides the key to what we refer to as identity information.
How long do you keep that information?
Approximately 30 days.
But law enforcement has the ability to extend that time. So-called preservation requests are delivered to AOL every day, requiring the company to keep emails or IP addresses beyond the normal time frame.
What's the standard for a preservation request? Is it the same search warrant kind of thing? Or?
No, it's a very low threshold. It has to be made by a governmental entity, it has to be in writing, and it has to be a very precise request. They just can't say preserve any and all records relating to John Doe. They have to, narrow it down in written form.
And are emails and IP addresses of help to law enforcement? The FBI says yes.
It's been very productive. I mean, keeping in mind, we have a tremendous amount of due process that we need to address.
There's a lot to go through. That being said, I would assume there are times when it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all very helpful.
In August of 2005, the Department of Justice subpoenaed AOL, Yahoo, MSN, and Google, seeking records of what people search for on the internet. The subpoenas were part of an effort to resurrect a federal law protecting children from internet pornography. Google successfully fought the request in court, but the rest of the major search engines complied. That concerns privacy advocates.
We need to be worried about both companies that collect our information and the government, because many companies are very solicitous to law enforcement. AOL, for instance, is not under any obligation to keep data after the user deletes it. And so in keeping it, they are specifically setting up the system to allow the government to gain access to more of your communications.
The risks from keeping information were made clear in August 2006 when AOL mistakenly made public 20 million separate internet searches conducted by hundreds of thousands of its subscribers. While the users were not identified by name, it is possible to identify some of them by their searches. Unlike AOL, which keeps personally identifiable search data for 30 days, Google keeps your searches forever. There are over 200 million Google searches every day, a number that keeps rising. And it's not just search. Google's ever-growing portfolio of products, each designed to extract information from the world around you, also extracts information about you, much of which Google keeps. Gmail is one example. Its vast storage capability allows for an infinite number of emails. But if you don't delete them, neither will Google. And even when you do delete emails, Google keeps them for 2 months or longer. Just why is it keeping these records? Google declined our request for an interview.
What they're talking about is data mining.
Privacy advocates worry that the company may someday want to sell personal profiles of its users. Fueling those fears, Google worked to exclude itself from a privacy bill in California designed to better regulate commercial data brokers, companies that are in the business of personal information.
One of the strongest opponents to this law is actually Google. Google wanted an internet service provider exemption, perhaps because someday down the road, Google would be a company that sold personal information for a fee.
The law, which has yet to be passed, no longer applies to Google.
Next on Big Brother, Big Business.
I was under the impression that nobody could break in and steal my cell phone records. As it turns out, I was very, very wrong. So now I'm put in a position, which is a very strange position, of fearing my own cell phone.
Did you know 1 in 3 men will face prostate issues?
Really? I didn't know that.
That's why One A Day Men's is a complete multivitamin with more lycopene, which Harvard studies suggest may help prostate health. One A Day Men's. More of what matters.
So that's the last slide, right?
Right. So I'm hitting send?
Yeah. Wait. Who's presenting in Chicago?
McLean.
McLean?
Yeah. He can do it. Right?
Hi.
Let me guess. McLean's on his own in Chicago? Have a good flight.
We know why you fly. We're American Airlines.
You need control of your sales materials so your field staff from coast to coast can order the current documents online. From printing to online document management, turn to PIP to turn down the stress. PIP, easing the pain of business.
You may not realize it, but there's a source of renewable energy right in your neighborhood, and you're helping to power it. Today, Waste Management is using the resources at our disposal to create energy from waste. Enough green energy to power over 1 million homes. From everyday collection to environmental protection, think green, think Waste Management.
I'm Ed Rontaler. I'm 101 years old. This house was built in 1930. We've had a lot of trick-or-treaters, many happy Thanksgivings, many, many happy memories in this house. I wouldn't trade a single day here for anything.
Each year, mortgage insurance from Genworth Financial helps thousands of people start building their own futures today by getting into their own homes faster. Genworth Financial. Insurance for living. Solutions for life.
If only your cupboards were never bare.
Fortunately, Walgreens has thousands of locations, many open 24 hours, stocked with the food and beverages you need whenever you run out.
Tomorrow, Michael J. Fox speaks out.
It's kind of a thoughtless thing to do.
And there's only one place to see it. The Big Idea, 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern, CNBC tomorrow.
Spend a day with the world's most famous investor.
I've never told any reporter this before.
Warren Buffett, the billionaire next door. Monday, November 20th on CNBC.
So how much would you pay for killer curves or a tight little behind? With Easy Shaper, you don't have to choose. You can have them all for the same low price.
Introducing the Easy Shaper.
Easy Shaper lets you hit all 7 of the areas women want to change the most.
You get 4 levels of smooth fluid resistance that target your abs, attack your buns, and give great results like these.
These are the pants that fit me before I started using the Easy Shaper, and now I have a lot more room in them.
And to guarantee that the Easy Shaper is the simplest workout possible, we'll include an awesome bun and ab lift DVD. Call now and we'll also include a super toning DVD. That's 2 full-length workouts on one amazing DVD.
For just $14.95, you can try the Easy Shaper in your home for 30 days. Better arms, better abs, better hips, buns, and thighs. All in one easy-to-use machine called Easy Shaper. Trust me, the back of your closet will thank you.
I was under the impression that nobody could break in and steal my cell phone records. As it turns out, I was unfortunately very, very wrong. So now I'm put in a position, which is a very strange position, of fearing my own cell phone.
In June of 2005, Adam Music of Atlantic Beach, New York, discovered that someone was stealing the records of every call he had made on his cell phone. Music made the unsettling discovery after he called his cell phone provider, Singular Wireless, with a routine billing question.
The customer service rep was, Mr. Music, you can look and get all the information online. I was very adamant with the woman. I said, ma'am, I don't have an online account. She was like, yeah, you do, sir. You opened it up 2 weeks ago. So then we went through the account. My name is correct. Everything's correct. My Social Security, you set it up right. We get to an email, which is not my email address. So once we got there, I kind of knew that there was a problem.
The problem was Music was being spied on. His former business partners had hired a private investigator, Gambino Information Services, to uncover information about him. Gambino had little trouble doing so. They were able to break into Music's account at Singular. When Singular discovered the breach, they told Music it could never happen again. But sure enough,
they broke in again September 14th, 2005. They broke in again October 12th, 2005.
This is after you had gotten the extra secret password,
everything,
password protected, and everything else. They were still able to break into your account.
Correct. This is the part that really gets rather disgusting with this.
Singular spokesman Mark Siegel admits the theft of cell phone records is a growing problem.
I'd like to start specifically with the case that we've been dealing with, which deals with this pretexting. Somebody says there's someone else and is able to open an online account, in this case, and access the phone records of the person they are impersonating. How does that happen?
That was a very unfortunate incident, and we're certainly sorry that it happened, and we have worked aggressively with the customer to try to set it right, including suing the company that did it and the individual who hired the company to do it. It's plain old-fashioned deceit, and people who go after this data think of ways that they can coax information out of, say, a representative in a call center. They pretend to be the customer. They pretend to be somebody in a store trying to check on an account. And to me, the most tasteless of all, they pretend to be an operator who is helping someone hard of hearing. The technical term for it is lying. You tend to not going to see a lot of customer complaints because customers often don't know that their information might have been stolen or compromised.
Well, that's the scariest part, I guess. I mean, there are people out there right now who may be having their cell phone calls monitored by a third party that they're not aware of.
That's a possibility, and it's a very easy thing to set up. You need a room, you need a few computers, you need unscrupulous people, and you've seen the advertisements on the internet. We'll get you the information in an hour or two. It's $100, it's $200.
Chances are Hewlett-Packard paid a lot more than that when it hired private detectives to spy on its own board members and the press.
Checking telephone records was a standard investigative technique at HP.
In the highest profile case of pretexting yet, HP's then chairman, Patricia Dunn, allegedly authorized private investigators to obtain the home and cell phone records of other HP board members and journalists in an effort to root out leaks to the press. Dunn is among 5 people indicted on felony charges for violating California state privacy statutes. In January, California will join a small group of states in which pretexting is illegal. Currently, it is not a federal offense.
If you went to my mailbox and stole my cell phone bill, that you know is a problem. Yet for you to call up Singular or Sprint or somebody else pretending to be me with my personal information, lying, setting up a fake account, getting my information that way, seems to be this gray area. The laws haven't caught up to the technology, and I find that very disturbing.
Good afternoon. This hearing is going to examine ways to protect consumers' phone records from being fraudulently obtained and sold into the public domain.
I'm glad to see that there's been some activity in Congress, both the Senate and the House, to start to introduce legislation that would criminalize this activity. But right now it isn't, and it should be.
So you have a civil action against these people.
Exactly.
But the government can't get involved because it's not criminal.
That's right.
Atom Music's former partners declined our request for an interview. In a letter, they admit to hiring Gambino Information Services, but deny any knowledge of Gambino's actions, saying they were extremely disappointed that Gambino acted in what was apparently an unlawful manner. Gambino Information Services declined to comment.
We've been looking for this guy for a couple of months now, and so far nothing.
Ernie Rizzo, Chicago PI, was willing to talk about how he gets cell phone records for his clients. Rizzo has been snooping, first as a police detective, then on his own, for 45 years.
What took a month of surveillance to figure out now takes 10 minutes. Everybody in the world is talking on their cell phones. So when you're spending weeks and weeks trying to pin somebody down, the phones tell you who he is in a second.
When Rizzo first started getting phone records many years ago, it required some creativity on his part.
I would call the phone companies and say, listen, I was out of town Friday, the babysitter made some calls, and I would kind of Mickey Mouse them into telling me what numbers were called, because the phone company has these records. But you got to be kind of clever. So what I would do is, first of all, I'd call between 12 and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's what most full-time employees go to lunch.
Those aren't the only tricks up Rizzo's sleeve.
Not saying I did this, but I've heard detectives have done this.
Okay, sure.
You call the phone company, cellular or your home phone, and you say, I'm going to be out of town for a couple of months. I'm having all my mail sent to P.O. Box 1234. And then about 5 days later, once that goes on the records, you call for your phone records. And you say, please send me out a copy of my bill. I didn't get it this month. They will then send it to the post office box because they think it's you who's out of town wanting the records there. That was the old world. That's what I used to do when I was years ago.
Now Rizzo gets cell phone records the same way anyone can, by going on the internet and contacting a company that sells them.
You still don't know how they actually give you the records.
Have no idea.
You feel that they're accurate, though.
Oh, there's no question.
We discovered dozens of websites that were offering to sell phone records to any member of the public. And they were often on websites that said, see who your spouse is talking to, see who your employees are talking to. And so we wrote a complaint to the Federal Trade Commission and to the Federal Communications Commission, arguing that these companies should be shut down for selling personal information. The good news is that many of these websites have shut down, and it looks as though Congress might pass a law that would heighten penalties for getting phone records. However, we're seeing evidence that many of the people who sell these records are simply moving underground.
Rizzo wouldn't reveal who provides him with his information. He says he is still having no trouble getting phone records for his clients. One of those clients, Naomi Garcia, suspected her fiancé was cheating on her.
We wound up seeing that there was a number that kept calling, incoming and outgoing. Depending on the day, it could be, 10, 12 times. I had seen the numbers, and, it's really difficult, and it wound up being his ex-girlfriend.
Garcia's fiancé denied he was cheating on her and said he was no longer talking to his ex. He wanted to reconcile, but Garcia remained skeptical.
Hey, have a seat.
So a few months later, P.I. Rizzo gets more phone records, this time the ex-girlfriend's.
Well, I've got good news and maybe bad news. Out of 450, the last 450 phone calls she made, she did not call him.
Okay.
No phone calls at all. But I wouldn't jump to any conclusions based on this, and I'll tell you why. Once someone knows they're being watched and looked at, their phone records are being checked, they use a little more caution. So for all we know, he went and spent $9, got a second phone.
For now, Garcia is done with cell phone records. And the fiancé.
The fact that I would have to go to these measures to find out is just, I don't want to base my marriage on that. I want to base it on love and trust and honesty.
You ever think twice about using your own phone in some ways?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's also true for Adam Music. He still uses a cell phone, but his days of carefree calls are over.
It's just a very strange thing to think that anything you do is being watched by somebody to use against you. I mean, who would have ever thought that I'd be in a situation where I worry about who's calling me on my cell phone?
When Big Brother Big Business continues, from the Mexican border to classrooms to motor vehicles and beyond, biometrics technology is filling databases across the U.S. with more information than ever before.
What about the idea of Big Brother, which I'm sure you've heard many times whenever you discuss this subject and your development of this technology?
This CNBC program is sponsored in part by British Telecom.
BT, enabling growth and success in the digital networked economy.
There is a perception that networking is now free, readily available, no longer a business issue. In our experience, however, it is quite different. For example, one of our banking customers couldn't get online loan requests processed in time, therefore decided to automatically approve all requests, which dramatically increased their business risk. Through the network, we were able to analyze the bottlenecks, optimize the infrastructure so the business process did complete in time, allowing them to only attract those customers they truly wanted. This is why BT is investing in the global 21st century network, to ensure our customers get an infrastructure that is a real business enabler and not a business inhibitor.
BT, enabling growth and success in the digital networked economy.
Woo! See, kids? Isn't this better than Vine? Yeah. Look, vagabonds.
Couldn't use your credit card miles, huh?
Yeah, they blacked us out.
You should switch to Capital One.
What smells like old cheese?
Oh, that's just Earl.
Oh, it's just Earl, honey. Get Capital One's no-hassle rewards with no blackout dates, no earn caps, and no miles expiration. This is our stop! You want to hit the ground rolling! Okay!
Ooh, what's in your wallet?
2,000 years ago, they probably never imagined people would be going past this at 50 kilometers per hour. Just like we probably can't predict who will be driving in the future. That's why we're developing thermoplastic car body parts that are lightweight and highly impact resistant. Not to mention recyclable. So we can keep things moving forward. I'm Marina Anglani and I work for ExxonMobil.
kings and queens, they all bow down to you. Ranches and ranch hands who bowing too. And I'm taking off my straw hat for you, singing, here comes the sun again.
Are you a player? You're not alone. CNBC exposes the exploding world of video games. What started as child's play,
a big fistful of quarters is gushed out of the machine,
has become a $30 billion business. Another revealing CNBC report. Game On premieres Wednesday, November 15th.
I'm Richard Morrison. CAP water is extremely important to our state.
Richard Morrison is a water lawyer running for the CAWCD board. Arizona native Richard Morrison has devoted his professional life to advising people about water. Richard also taught water resources management at ASU and was the director of the Roosevelt Water Conservation District. Richard Morrison knows water.
Experience counts. Vote for experience on November 7th.
Think being a big sister means you have to spend all day stuck in a library? Think again. To learn more about becoming a big brother or big sister, call 1-888-412-BIGS.
My name is Richard Hayes. I'm a supervisory Border Patrol agent here in the Yuma sector. The United States Border Patrol's primary mission is now to prevent terrorists and weapons of mass destruction from entering the United States, as well as to continue on with our traditional mission of enforcing our country's immigration laws.
¿Cómo se llama? Ramón? Okay. Ahí.
Yuma, Arizona is home to the busiest Border Patrol station in the United States. Last year, agents in the sector arrested over 138,000 people who tried to cross into the U.S. illegally.
Anywhere between 400 to 600, maybe sometimes as high as 700 individuals that are apprehended in a 24-hour time period. Those individuals will be brought into this area.
The process of deciding the fate of each detainee is made a whole lot easier by biometrics, the science of using biological properties such as fingerprints to identify individuals. For decades, border agents were forced to take fingerprints the old-fashioned way, with ink. Now, those fingerprints are scanned. That can almost instantly reveal whether someone is a felon.
It's really streamlined our processing capabilities and has allowed our agents to easily and quickly identify those individuals that have been arrested in the United States or may have criminal warrants for their arrest.
Dr. Joseph Attic, a pioneer in biometrics, is the CEO and president of Minnesota-based Identix. The company sells fingerprint, facial, and skin biometric systems used for security and identification.
Our body is filled with patterns that are called today biometric patterns that can be imaged and analyzed by algorithms in order to establish your identity.
Dr. Attic has been at the forefront of some of the technology's most significant breakthroughs.
An imaging device or a scanner can take a picture of your fingerprint, and a computer algorithm can analyze the way the different singularities, like the breaks in the finger ridges, and how they relate to each other. So it allows law enforcement to look back in their data and records through a computerized system.
Prior to us utilizing biometrics, it would actually require us to search records telephonically or over the computer based on an individual's name and date of birth. Individuals would commonly use aliases, and it would make our job much more difficult.
What took days, weeks, or even months now occurs in about 5 minutes.
This individual whose fingerprints had just been captured utilizing the IAFIS system, or Integrated Automated Fingerprint Identification System. It compares those prints to previously recorded fingerprints and biometric information and compares that against the FBI database, and will let us know if that individual has a criminal history here in the United States, they have been previously arrested, or they have a criminal warrant for their arrest.
The FBI's database, which holds the fingerprints of 51 million people, is here in Clarksburg, West Virginia. The center processes about 70,000 prints a day, 5,000 of them from the U.S. Border Patrol.
They come into this server, which is our AFIS server. It processes the fingerprints that come in and makes a determination if we have prints on file or not. And we process those 5,000 prints and turn them around in approximately 30 seconds back to the sender. You can only imagine if we had to physically send in the fingerprints, what that would entail. But these are basically dots and dashes like any type of digital information.
The dots and dashes leave the FBI server and return to Yuma in the form of valuable information.
His fingerprints have indicated, after being compared with those on file with the FBI, that he has been previously arrested in the United States for domestic violence. This individual could possibly be set up for criminal prosecution based upon his criminal history here in the United States.
You lift your fingers.
Biometrics is not just used to identify criminals at the border.
Very nice teamwork.
Andrea LaRosa is a special education teacher in the Macomb County Intermediate School District in Michigan.
They're fingerprinting everybody. As far as I know, they're going to be stored in a database with just some general background information, how much I weigh, what's my height, what's my gender, and that kind of thing. And it doesn't bother me. You never know who's going to be out there. We got to protect our students and our kids. Absolutely.
Teresa Pomeroy is the Human Resources Supervisor in Macomb. Pomeroy says the prints are crucial to determining if an employee has a criminal record.
The one advantage, certainly, is there's a 3 to 5 day turnaround. Before, we used to offer a position conditionally, because with the ink prints, we would wait 4 to 6 weeks.
Macomb is one of many school districts amassing biometric fingerprint databases. Such databases have also become popular in corporate America, particularly in the banking and securities industry. And it's not just fingerprints.
Some of the more recent patterns that have become very useful in establishing human identity include the iris of the eye. And even more recently, it was discovered that the human skin, the face, the texture of that skin is very unique. You can look at the face as a canvas, and the texture of that canvas can establish your identity.
Today, biometric facial recognition is becoming an everyday occurrence at departments of motor vehicles.
There are today about 15 or 16 states that have facial recognition in order to ensure the uniqueness of the identity before they issue the driver's license.
The State Department.
The U.S. Department of State uses facial recognition against 50 million records to check for fraud. It is an inventor's dream come true.
The international arrival gates at some airports.
The last frontier is going to be basically allowing people to travel unobstructed, unhindered, simply using their trusted identity.
Look up here. Look at the camera.
The Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, whose jurisdiction includes St. Petersburg and Clearwater, Florida, was the first in a growing number of law enforcement agencies across the country using facial recognition biometrics to identify criminals. Police use it when apprehending potential suspects on the street.
It makes it easier by allowing me to quickly identify individuals who are not being truthful about their name.
Or during the booking process. Melvin Burney is brought in for failure to appear in court to answer charges of driving with a suspended license. A quick photo reveals that Burney is no stranger to this process, having been arrested previously for domestic battery and burglary. Lieutenant Jim Main helped bring facial recognition technology to Pinellas in 2001.
You can straighten your head up just a bit. Thank you very much.
At first, it was only used at the precinct.
Hold that pose right there.
But in 2004, the technology was brought into patrol cars.
One more. That's perfect. Hold on. Hold it right there. Okay.
Facial recognition does very fast searches. Basically what the technology does, it maps 128 different points on the face. It measures all the different angles of the face and uses those measurements to convert it then into ones and zeros. Computers can search ones and zeros a lot faster than searching image against image against image. So it does this conversion, and then it searches our database and then some databases that we partner with other agencies across the state. And in about 15 seconds, it brings back some possible matches for the deputy then to determine whether they have that person in front of them.
In January of 2001, fans attending the Super Bowl in Tampa were surprised to learn their faces had been captured by cameras and then scanned against a database of known and suspected felons.
The main issue that people had with that deployment was that you're talking just a public place where, you know, mom and dad and their kids are just going to a public setting, walking around the streets, no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion that they're doing anything wrong, and just taking their pictures and running their images to see if they can identify them.
What about the idea that in public places, the local police will have cameras that are just scanning the crowd, doing or running through image after image after image?
But you see, it is not technology that's going to dictate the use of an application in society. It's society's needs and values. And in my opinion, we can improve security and deliver enhancement to our security without having what we call wide area surveillance. Personally, I'm against wide area surveillance.
Isn't it a difficult line for you to walk? I mean, you're one of the pioneers in developing this technology. You help run a company that, of course, makes money from selling as much as it can the idea of being able to use facial recognition for good purposes. And yet you also are saying that, well, we've got to make sure it's not used too widely because that would endanger privacy.
But you see, the technology is so powerful that it has many, many good applications. Why do we want to focus on the negative of the technology and promote it so that a backlash could come in and would prevent us from actually reaping the benefits of this technology in the areas where it should be used?
What about the idea of Big Brother, which I'm sure you've heard many times whenever you discuss this subject and your development of this technology?
Big Brother is a concern. Big Brother, if let and allowed to happen, will happen. And our job as responsible human beings in society is to make sure that that does not occur.
The conclusion of Big Brother Big Business. The future is now. Science fiction becomes reality.
They make a small incision in your arm where the chip is implanted.
What we do in this next 10 years is going to control our privacy for generations.
The moment may be right for you, but your sleeping beauty may want to wait till tomorrow. That's okay. You have up to 36 hours with Cialis. Cialis is the only erectile dysfunction tablet clinically proven to work up to 36 hours. 36 hours means you can be flexible and choose for yourselves when the moment is right. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions and all medications, and ask if you're healthy enough for sexual activity. Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Don't drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help if you experience priapism, an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease in vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away. Some things take time. You can have it. 36-hour Cialis. When the moment is right. Will you be ready?
You may not realize it, but there's a source of renewable energy right in your neighborhood, and you're helping to power it. Today, Waste Management is using the resources at our disposal to create energy from waste. Enough green energy to power over 1 million homes. From everyday collection to environmental protection, think green, think Waste Management.
This is not good. What if I get hurt and can't work? Wait, I have Aflac. They give me cash to help pay for groceries, the car, even the cable bill. Lucky me.
Aflac. Ask about it at work.
So that's the last slide, right?
Right. So I'm hitting send?
Yeah. Wait. Who's presenting in Chicago?
McLean.
McLean?
Yeah. He can do it. Right?
Hi.
Let me guess. McLean's on his own in Chicago? Yeah. Have a good flight.
We know why you fly. We're American Airlines.
Get a double dose of Kudlow. With the election just hours away, Larry and his political insiders predict what's next. Kudlow and Company, Monday, 5 and 8 p.m. Eastern.
More movies. I am the champion. Great value.
Every stick and stone you see is Narnia.
With a Star Showtime movie package. Get 27 of the best premium movie channels, which includes 5 Stars channels and 7 Encore channels. Also, introducing Indieplex, Retroplex, and Movieplex. Over 1,200 movies per month for only $14.99.
That boy's a gift from the gods.
See hit movies in 100% digital quality picture and sound. Movies like Memoirs of a Geisha.
You are the most celebrated geisha in all Miyako.
Fun with Dick and Jane.
We may be in a little bit of a pickle, Dick.
And Chicken Little.
Come on, Dad. We've got a planet to save.
With 27 premium movie channels for only $14.99 per month, now is the time to experience the best in movie entertainment. To order the Stars Showtime movie package, call 188-TV-QUEST-5 or visit quest.com/stars today.
The government does not listen to domestic phone calls without court approval.
To put it mildly, AT&T has not been forthright with the American people or its customers about what it is doing.
How many Americans have had their phone conversations recorded or their emails intercepted without a court order? Any idea?
You're asking me about the operations of this program, and I really can't get into it.
In the last year, Americans began to learn of unprecedented efforts by the U.S. government to monitor the behavior of those who live within the country's borders. The National Security Agency was reported to be tapping into some of the American telecom system's main arteries without court approval, tracing and analyzing large volumes of phone calls and email traffic, and eavesdropping on specific conversations. AT&T declined our request for an interview, but a spokesman made a general statement to the press.
AT&T does not provide customer information to law enforcement agencies or government agencies without legal authorization.
Verizon would not confirm or deny whether it had any relationship to the NSA wiretapping, and said it had not provided the NSA with any customer phone records or call data. While the involvement of U.S. telecom companies in the NSA's effort remains unclear, one thing is not. In the post-9/11 world, the federal government has come to rely on corporate America to be its ally on the war on terror by providing data that can be crucial in determining who is a risk. And in a world where almost everything that anyone does can be measured or monitored, that data keeps growing. Still, many people in this country, when asked of their concerns about privacy, answer with the same refrain: why should I worry when I have nothing to hide?
I honestly don't understand how these people can do this and cause so much harm. For me,
that's what Adam Music believed before he learned his cell phone records were being monitored by a private investigator.
I would never have even thought about this whole thing with the NSA now and the whole government thing. To me, I would have been behind it 110%.
Well, Mr. Usyk, we appreciate your testimony and certainly understand your intensity and the way you feel about it.
Living through this experience is changing my point of view on this dramatically, because Here, you know, somebody went out and is stealing something of mine, attempting to use it against me, is potentially putting me in harm's way with my own information, and nobody seems to be able to say that it's a clear problem, that it's a clear legal issue. How is this possible?
In the new world, with all these new technologies, records are being created of activities that used to be wholly private.
Those records are no longer held solely in one's home, where you have constitutional protection from search or seizure under the Fourth Amendment. They are now held by countless businesses that intersect our lives, so-called third parties, to which the Fourth Amendment does not apply.
This is exactly what the founders wanted to prevent. They wanted to prevent the government from searching everybody, just casting a big wide net and seeing who gets snagged in the net. They wanted to stop that. That's what the Fourth Amendment's about. However, the Supreme Court decided in the 1970s that if a third party has your information, you don't have an expectation of privacy in that information. And therefore, you don't get any Fourth Amendment protection.
The future promises to bring ever more invasive technology.
What we used to see in films is becoming a reality.
Ideas that were once the province of science fiction
What the hell are you doing to me?
Are today a part of everyday life. In early 2006, a number of employees of a video surveillance company called City Watchers in Cincinnati, Ohio, were implanted with microchips.
They make a small incision in your arm where the actual chip is then implanted subcutaneously under your skin.
Call the lady, have her type in, what is my IP?
CEO Sean Dark thought security at the company would be enhanced if its workers implanted the chips, which allow people to identify themselves by holding their arm in front of a scanner.
It's not Big Brother-ish because there's no information about you on the chip.
It's tied to a database within the company that says this person is allowed to come into the facility.
Scott Silverman is the CEO of Applied Digital, the owner of Verichip. The Delray Beach, Florida company develops, manufactures, and markets the chips, which are primarily used for animal tracking and medical patients who may need them in order to communicate with a doctor in an emergency situation.
The scanner powers up, wave it over the arm, pulls up the unique 16-digit identification number, and through a serial port that's at the bottom of the scanner, it goes to a computer or a laptop, where immediately my picture, my driver's license information, and my relevant medical records would pop up on the screen. Those that fear the Big Brother aspect, the government's going to make sure that everyone has one of these chips and they're going to be able to track your every move, there's no location technology in this whatsoever.
Implantable chips sound scary, but a lot of people say you shouldn't be concerned about it. Would you be?
I think so. I think that there are good uses and there are bad uses of this technology. I think one thing about the chips is, what if they can be read by someone, and how far can they be read? Currently, they can't be read at a great distance, but what if they could? In the future, we can't assume they're going to stay the same.
In the future, little will stay the same.
Galileo is about to be deployed, and its coverage will be worldwide right from the start.
The Galileo satellite navigation system, scheduled to be launched in 2008, will take surveillance to a whole new level.
It will offer positioning accurate to within 2 meters, whereas GPS is accurate only to within 15 meters. This precision will not only allow existing services to be improved, but also new uses to be developed.
No doubt many of those uses will provide benefits. But those same advances come with risks. With each advance comes an added threat were the technology to be abused. Will the technology used today to help combat crime be used tomorrow to clamp down on free speech or political dissent? Dr. Attic, one of the fathers of biometrics, knows the nefarious possibilities that technology provides. I read a quote from you saying that 50 years down the line, when I look at my life's achievements, I don't want to be the person that people say, well, He's like the guy who invented the atomic bomb.
This is a powerful technology, and therefore, as is the case with any other powerful technology, we have to insist on its responsible use.
Charles Morgan, the leader of one of the country's largest data mining companies, also has his apprehensions.
We're all concerned. I mean, I'm concerned if the government misuses stuff. I mean, we all we're very fearful of Big Brother. I'm not very worried that that'll happen because there's going to be so much oversight.
Privacy advocates don't believe there's been enough oversight.
It's going to be critical over the next 10 years to try to establish a balance between individuals' privacy rights and the ability of government to get our personal information. And what we do in this next 10 years is going to control our privacy for generations.
The law that regulates electronic surveillance, the last major restructuring of that law took place in 1986. We need a regulatory infrastructure to protect privacy, and right now we don't quite have one to match the new technologies that we have. The public needs to be putting pressure on state and federal legislators to do something about this. It's important that the public become aware of what is going on so its voice can be heard.
This CNBC program was sponsored in part by John Hancock. The future is yours.
When I was 12, I saw the ocean for the first time. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I decided, one day, I'm going to have a house right on the water. And then, if I have kids, they can live there. And, maybe their kids can have the house after them.
You once made a promise to yourself about your future. At John Hancock, we have the products you need to help build, protect, and sustain the future you've always wanted. John Hancock, the future is yours.
What are you going to have?
Pancakes, I think. I see you're driving a Cadillac.
And I see you're doing the very same.
Welcome to the world of gentlemen. Gentlemen.
It's good to be here.
The spacious Cadillac DTS. Room for 4 grown gentlemen.
There's a new way to fight a big cold. Immerse yourself in total cold relief. With new Alka-Seltzer Plus Liquid, it speeds relief to every inch of you. Liquidate your big cold with new Alka-Seltzer Plus Liquid.
Joan and Bob told us how Walgreens gave them a free report to help them decide which Medicare prescription plan best covered their medications.
If you want to switch plans or you're turning 65, our free report can help.
We brought in our prescriptions.
And Walgreens' free report helped make choosing a plan easy.
Come in for your free report and get $50 in coupons. Already signed up? We accept all major plans. Find out why millions of seniors are bringing their Medicare questions and their prescriptions to Walgreens. Stop in today.
Adjustable rate mortgages are resetting, and your monthly payments could get dangerously high. Refinance your first mortgage today, and we'll guarantee the lowest price or give you $500 in cash. Call now before your mortgage payment climbs any higher. Lending Tree. When banks compete, you win.
We did it for the clutch players. New beds, new lobbies. Courtyards changed it all for the go-to guys. Deeper mattresses, crisper sheets, wider open spaces with Wi-Fi, easy chairs, and freshly stocked 24-hour markets. All new, all for the players who suit up and take the field.
Courtyard, redesigned by business travelers for business travelers.
Go team.
Excuse me. So what exactly are you guys?
Sneakers, baby. Vintage 1985 high tops, limited edition. Old school.
Wow, you guys sound pretty cool.
You know how I roll.
So how's the postal carrier going to handle all you guys?
It's all good. The lady drives a big truck.
Wow.
With lots of room in the truck, the post office comes to you with free package pickup.
Hey, down here. Filling up with Shell gasoline, right?
Yeah.
Apply now and get a Shell Platinum MasterCard, and I'd be your 15% rebate. That's 41 cents a gallon to $2.75 a gallon. Good for your first 60 days. Just imagine all the rebates.
You earn 15% rebates on Shell gasoline for 60 days with a new Shell MasterCard account when you apply now through December 31st, 2006. Call 1-877-MY-SHELL or stop by your nearest Shell station.
Are you a player? You're not alone. CNBC exposes the exploding world of video games. What started as child's play,
a big fistful of quarters is gushed out of the machine,
has become a $30 billion business. Another revealing CNBC report. Game On premieres Wednesday, November 15th.